You're listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Strategic and tactical advice about inbound sales and marketing.
Hello and welcome back to the Yin and Yang Show. Thanks for joining us again this week. I'm Lindsay Kelly with Prospect Builder, the Yin/marketing side of this beautiful podcast, joined by my good buddy, Sig.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Sig. What's up, my Yang friend, sales dude?
Happy June. I'm psyched. I'm pumped up to have our friend Larry back on with us today.
Brian, what's happening?
It's been a while. How's it going, Larry?
Going good.
Good.
I'm glad
I should probably say going well.
Yeah, going well. I know. If you want to be pedantic about it, I guess, right? My mom does that. She says anyways. I'm like, anyways actually isn't a word. It's anyway, but anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, until we're in our circle of friends, we always correct grammar, and it's just a habit of mine. I say something, I catch myself because I know I'm going to get slapped.
Yeah, so I'm pumped to have you on with us again. It's been at least a month or two, I think, since we were last time. So the topic for today, as we were actually kind of just chatting about before we got the tape rolling here, was all about social selling. And, it's basically a topic that kind of grinds my gears or, ruffles me up a little bit, because I feel like I see so much content about social selling. A lot of people, I won't name names in particular, but there's a lot of kind of industry pundits or experts or what have you that talk all about like, this isn't social selling and social selling 2.0 or whatever. But they don't tell you how to do it. And that really frustrates me. And I thought it'd be interesting to chat with you about some of the basics on how to do kind of, LinkedIn prospecting 101, or just kind of how to be a good, basically sales rep as you work through or work LinkedIn into your day. Lindsay, it looks like you've got a burning.
I'm dying because you just jumped right in. Can we say who Larry is? So Larry Levine, my buddy Larry Levine, in case you're not an avid listener to the podcast and this may be just something you found because it's an interesting topic to you, Larry Levine was with us a couple of months ago. He is the principal over at Social Sales Academy. He does miraculous work with folks in the office technology space, working around LinkedIn, showing them how to set up their profiles properly. And so he has a lot of experience in using this tool. I will not call him a LinkedIn guru, because while he is very good at using this tool, that's really not what his area of expertise is. His area of expertise is sales, and he uses LinkedIn as one of these tools. So now that we know who's on the podcast, so I'm Lindsay, I'm from Prospect Builder, Brian is from HubSpot, and Larry is from Social Sales Academy.
I skip all the frills. I'm just getting right into the meat of the content here.
People are like, Larry, who is Larry?
Oh, dude, it's all good.
We've established Larry's an expert now. So I feel like we're on the right track. Larry's someone you should be listening to. If you believe no one else, you should take my word for it, take Lindsay's word for it. I said this last time we had you on, Larry. I'm just sort of floored by kind of the breadth and depth of how you present yourself digitally, how you do that. At least, LinkedIn's one of the channels you do that through. What I really liked a lot was that your LinkedIn kind of profile is really not a resume at all, and instead is very kind of like consultative, like description of exactly how you help people and what you're an expert in. And I don't know if that's changed in the last couple of months since we talked, but that struck me, and I do think that you're a really good person to talk through this topic on, despite the fact that I skipped all of the intros and whatnot.
Don't worry about it. But I think you really, Brian, you keyed in on something that you said a little bit ago, and I'll use the word loosely as well, industry pundits. And I think I'll call it collegiate social selling, and then there's street level social selling. And I try to keep it as simple as possible, because if you take it, and this is where, sorry, I'm going to go off on a rant, but there's the average B2B sales rep that out there, in my opinion, is of the SMB world, right? Those small, medium-sized sales reps who don't have marketing departments, who don't have a lot of resources, they have to rely on themselves to promote themselves and how they do things. And then they read all the social selling stuff that's out there that's really, in my opinion, is focused at the corporate world of Fortune 1000, world of Fortune 500, Fortune 2000. And it does make sense because they have access to all this stuff and those words make sense. But the average sales rep out there doesn't understand a lot of these words. So I caught onto that a long time ago and I said, how can I make this simple so somebody, and I'm not the smartest person out there, but I made it work for me. And that was, I spent time building my brand and understanding who I was as a sales rep, not in my eyes, but the eyes of my clients. So I know we talked about profile build and so forth last time. I'm a firm believer, if you want to have any success at the street level, integrating social, you got to know who you are as a sales rep, which means you have to spend some time on building that persona of who you are, right? You have to be able to articulate value. You got to be able to tell a story. And you have to be able to leverage a platform like LinkedIn to do it. And once you do that, then all I really did is take it back to my clients. And I said, is this a direct representation of who I am? So I got my clients to buy into who I was. And if I started getting some agreement, then I rolled with it. If I was missing a couple pieces, then I had my clients help me write who I was in their eyes. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And I think that's the missing link, because everybody's going to twist this up 7 days to tomorrow as far as how a profile should be built. I think a profile should be built that works to help you do one thing as a sales rep: position yourself better in the eyes of your clients and your future clients, because it's not about you, it's about them. And that's all I really did. And I felt comfortable enough in my own skin that I knew my clients said this. They believed in what I wrote. They believed in how I worked with them. So then once I did that, it was easy. I just went to market with it.
So
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Jinx. So, Larry, tell us where to start. Talk to us about getting yourself set up like that, because as you were talking and I was thinking about you, knowing you first personally and then getting to know you digitally, there are many people, if we all take a step back from just, who we are right now and what we're doing, think about LinkedIn. And when you're perusing through, there are people that I have never met, that I have connected with or that I follow, that I actually feel emotional towards when I see their posts, because they have built up a digital soul, is what I call it, that allows you to know who they are. And they have to use a digital platform because this one person that coming to mind is literally across the pond in England, and she's she curses and she's great, but I feel like I know her, and I've never spoken to her before because she's done such an excellent job building her digital profile.
Well, I think it goes back to this, and I'll stay true to this, is I believe, and I think we're getting back to this, and and I'll plug my podcast, but if you don't mind,
please do.
It's selling from the heart. And I truly believe that. So when I started building who I was digitally, I stayed true to who I was. I'm genuine, authentic. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I share what's on my mind. I might challenge somebody, but that's how I positioned myself digitally. So the exact same way I position myself digitally is the exact same way I walk face to face.
That's great. And so how do you get started doing that though, online?
And this is where I'm going to go off on the value proposition, because I think this is where sales reps miss it. So there's so many different avenues on how to build your profile out. We all know that, right? There's so many different sections and all that. But I think there's 3 key areas that sales reps miss. And if they can nail these, I think they'll hit a home run with this. And that's the space that sits underneath your name. And I'm going to equate that to your value proposition for a second. And then the second part's your summary, and the third part's your work experience. That's the meat and potatoes of your profile. And to me, that's what's going to make or break you as a rep, especially in the sales world. We can start getting into publications you've done and recommendations and all this stuff. But if you can't nail those 3 sections, I think it's game over. So the first spot is sales reps need to understand how to articulate a value proposition. And that's how they're going to open up a conversation digitally. So for instance, if you look at most people's profiles, what sits right underneath their name, and we all know that, right? It's usually their title. It's usually something, right? I mean, if they've spoken to somebody, it might have some buzzwords on it with some lines going through, and that drives me crazy. But that space that sits underneath your name, that's the value you bring to somebody. That's the opening act of your story. And what drives me absolutely bonkers is I have yet to run across any sales rep that can clearly articulate the value they bring to their clients. So I was out a couple weeks ago on the road, and I walked right up to a top sales rep at a dealership, and I asked him, what's the value you bring to one of your clients? And there's dead silence. So I started saying, you know, if you don't know the value, how can you open up a conversation with anybody? So how's that work with LinkedIn is, let's use the space that sits underneath your name as that's the value you bring to somebody. Why would somebody talk to you, Lindsay? So if you log on to somebody's profile and you look at it and in 5 seconds you go, I'm either going to talk to them or not going to talk to them.
I'm going to do this live while you are talking about this. I'm going to bring up your LinkedIn profile,
Go ahead.
Larry. And for those of you on video, you'll be able to see this. But I want to read what you have. Instead of co-founder of Social Sales Academy, listen to Larry's value proposition. Transforming how copier reps grow net new business through LinkedIn and storytelling. Check out how in my profile summary. I mean, like, it doesn't say it much more clearly than that.
And thank you. But what I'm trying to get across to sales reps, and I think that's the piece right there, Lindsay, is if you can't open up a conversation with somebody, if your best client, and this is an example I use with sales reps, if you walk into in a room and you open that door and the person on the other side of the door is your top targeted account, C-level decision maker of that top targeted account, and they reach out and they say, hey, glad to meet you. What do you do? If you can't in 5 seconds clearly, concisely, and with conviction share the value you can bring to that person, game over. And that's what I drill on a lot with sales reps is, you know, this is how you can use your LinkedIn profile as a way to open up that digital conversation. I mean, we can talk about content later, but if somebody logs onto your profile and spans it real quick, they're going to go yay or nay, vet or no vet. So that's why I talk about value proposition. If you can make it past that, then your summary has to tell a story. That story really is your ability to say, this is how I can help you solve issues and challenges that are going on in your office. I understand your world. I've researched your world. I understand it. So my unique promise of value, if you spend a little bit of time with me, these are the things that we're going to cover, which are their issues, which means you have to do some research, which means sales reps have to learn CFO language. They have to learn CIO language. They have to learn IT manager language because they don't understand
their
copier
target
language.
persona.
Right. They don't understand copier language, but
No.
a CFO understands CFO language.
That's right. And I think that was a good point that you just made. So many people, when you go to their summary, it goes, you know, ABC Business Systems provides the top copiers. And it's like, no. That's not what your summary is there for. Your summary is there to tell a story about how you're going to solve a pain.
Yeah,
So,
and it's just unfortunate because it's such a, this is my belief, and you may not agree with me, but I'll throw it out there, is I'm a firm believer that if sales reps can't clearly articulate a value, can't clearly share their story with their summary, can't clearly say, hey, if you become a customer of mine at, you know, fill in the blank with the company name, game over. They may not even make it to your dealership's website.
right. Because you have to have that in there too. So many people forget that. Drive them over to where they can find more information about the wonderful solutions and hear more of the story about the company and the problems that are solved.
And that's what just boggles my mind with sales reps is, you know, I'll use it loosely. They work so hard to retain their current clients, but yet they don't bother to really ask their current clients, in a digital world, am I acting the same way as I'm acting face to face?
Oh, what a good point.
And that is a huge disconnect because, you know, Lindsay, I mean, and Brian, you're getting to know me. I just love challenging the status quo. And I'll challenge sales reps when I ask them, what's the value you bring to the people that you work with? And then they share, oh, this is the value, right? And we'll just say XYZ. And I said, okay, would you mind giving me that person's name and phone number so I can call them and ask them the same thing and see if what they say aligns with what you say? and then it's usually silence. So that's what I'm really, that's what I'm really keen on when I work with sales reps is, it's not all about LinkedIn, but you damn well better be able to tell a really great story and bring value online, because if you can't bring value online, I seriously doubt you're going to be able to open up a conversation face to face with somebody who's never done business with you before.
Right. And so we've got our value proposition. We've got a summary that tells a story about what you as a sales rep can do to help ease the pain of your target persona. And then work experience. And these are definitely 3 pillars, because when I get invitations to connect on LinkedIn, a lot of times there is no summary. The quote unquote value proposition it just says like account manager. And I know absolutely nothing about that person. So it's like walking up to somebody at a cocktail party and just staring at them.
Right.
And saying, my name is Lindsay. It's awkward because you're like, well, what? And there's no message when they connect it. And you're like, what do you want? Why do you want to talk to me? I don't know you. So talk a little bit about the work experience aspect of it, because that's also something where, it's like, okay, there's no value proposition, there's no summary. You have one line about where you worked and the years that you worked there with nothing there. I know nothing about you.
No, and so I think the biggest key, and I think where sales reps can really hit a home run, is how they leverage work experience. And as crazy as this sounds, when I work with sales reps, I said, your profile is also your talk track. So think about it this way, as if what sits underneath your name is how you open up a conversation, right? We'll call that's your value proposition, your digital door opener, right? Your conversation starter. Then I look at your summary as, hey, if we spend any time together, this is what we're going to speak about. I understand the issues that are going on inside your organization. More specifically, I understand the issues that you have in your position. Well, guess what? If you become a client of mine, here's what you can expect. And that's the key, that if sales reps can really latch onto this. Because if you ask a sales rep, they'll salivate over this one, right? They walk into a situation and that decision maker goes, I hate my current provider. I hate the machines. I hate the lease agreement. I hate everything about the people that I'm doing business with. And in the back of that sales rep's mind's going, man, I got something right here. I got it. And they work on it and they bust their ass on it. And then guess what happens? They stay with that company. And they stay with that company because it's better to stay in a bad marriage than get a divorce. But more importantly, that sales rep hasn't removed doubt and eliminated risk in that person's mind on why they should jump the fence. So where I coach sales reps on is leverage that work experience to say, this is what I do for my clients. So if you become a customer of mine at fill in the blank, right? This is how we take care of our customers. This is what we do. This is why we do it. And more importantly, this might be a sentence from a current client.
Larry,
as a testimonial.
Question for you on that. So I've heard at least a few different schools of thought on the work experience part of a LinkedIn profile. And I took the advice probably 4 or 5 years ago that like your LinkedIn profile should basically demonstrate that you are the best at something or a top something, right? I think that that's probably changed. And even as the last time we had a LinkedIn, profile conversation, I said, oh crap, Larry's going to kill me. He's going to nail me on this because like my profile reads, by today's standards, more like a resume than it does, something that's really helped people. But what I'm really curious to get your opinion on is how do you coach sales reps to articulate the value that they provide to clients without sounding jargony or buzzwordy?
Wow, that's a good one. So what I make them get uncomfortable, and where I make them get uncomfortable is I will coach sales reps and say, Brian, you and I were working together. I would encourage you to take your top 10 clients, right? Those are your go-to clients, right? Those are the ones that you're always using as references and so forth. Then I'm going to urge you to go back to your top 10 clients, face to face, belly to belly. I'm going to urge you to sit down with them. And in conversation, casual conversation, I'm going to urge you to say this question. What's the value that I bring to your organization? And then don't say a word. And it's going to be tough
with that silence.
And it's going to get tough because sales reps love talking. But if you truly know your clients and you're truly building a genuine, authentic relationship, my top 20 clients at the dealership that I used to work for, if you asked them that question without hesitation, they would tell you, because I was constantly in there and I was building relationships with them and I wasn't trying to sell them anything. And that's what I urge sales reps. So, I coached a sales rep and I asked him to do this. I said, take your top account. Whatever your top account is, right? I don't know your accounts. You take your top account. You ask that person who's signing those lease agreements, what's the value I bring to your organization? And then call me back. The major account rep said that was the single toughest question I've ever asked somebody. I said, but it's your best account. I said, so what was it?
Why I feel like it was so difficult? What was the moment of discomfort?
Because this is what the response was. You know what the CFO said? What are you trying to sell me?
Oh, snap.
That was the response, guys. So I said, and one of the things that, and I do a lot of not-for-profit charity work, and it drives people crazy because they always go, Larry, you're so negative, right? You're always really tick me off because you're so negative. And I said, no, I'm looking for red flags all the time. So as a sales rep, if you ever want to try, if you want to ask the pucker up question, you sit down with your clients and ask you, what's the value that I bring to organization? Better yet, what words would you use to describe how I'm supporting your account?
Yep. I almost think that if I were in that CFO shoes or the CEO shoes and an account rep asked me that question, my first reaction would be something like, are you breaking up with me? Are you firing me as a client? Or something like that.
No, because you know what happens, and this was just me, but I wear my emotions, Brian, on my sleeve. And I would share, when I went on my social journey 10 years ago, I would sit down with my top 20 clients and I'd share with them, hey, here's the journey I'm going on. I really want to start building a really great brand in my marketplace, and I want your help. So just as I've been providing you a great level of service, and you agree, I want you in return to help me grow my business. And it might mean you helping me do certain things. And they're always willing to help. The problem is that no one wants to ask their client for help. Because sales reps got big fat egos. I checked my ego out at the door, and I went belly to belly. And what better way to build your digital brand than from the mouths of babe, right? Those are my clients. That's what my clients had to say. So, a couple of weeks ago, I was out at a dealership and I just spent a couple hours, and one of the gals reached back out to me. She goes, where do I start? And I said, what I want you to do is go back to your couple best clients, your go-to, your bread and butter, and ask them, what's the value I bring to your organization? And that's what you're going to start using. You're going to start using that value that your current client's saying, how you open up new conversations with people who've never done business with you. And I helped her shorten that, and that's what's sitting underneath her name on her LinkedIn profile, and that's the value right from her client's mouth.
Wow.
So,
I would agree with that. I mean, I think that there's at HubSpot, our CEO feels really strongly about this and talked about it at our inbound conference last year, and I feel like I've read a lot of this since then, and probably before that I just wasn't paying attention to, but. There is an argument that a company's best sales reps are actually not on the company's payroll. So they're the customer, right? They're just paying everyone's paycheck. Right, exactly. Well, I think that what you're talking about here, Larry, is just another testament to that, to actually using your customer base as another element, another slice of growth, or another driver of growth for your business, whether it's on individual level or at the top level down. Well, what's interesting, and I'm going to spin off on the customers because that's all I really did. And when we start talking about social, there's so many. People got PhDs in social selling, I feel, right? And most people don't understand PhD language. What they understand, right, is high school language. How can this take this down to a street level? And that's what I was someone's been following me for a while, and he's a sales coach and a sales trainer out there. And finally he commented on one of my blog posts a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, I just have to talk to you. He goes, I've been following what you're doing for a while, and you make sense at a street level. So we Skyped yesterday. And he goes, what I really appreciate about you is you're an old school guy. I'm 52.
So, he goes, you're an old school guy who can resonate in the modern sales world. And I said, for one thing, is because I opened up my mindset and I checked my ego out at the door. And one thing is I love building relationships with people, and all social is building relationships with people with modern sales tools. And so I effectively built a brand, but then everyone wants to talk about, drive a bunch of content, drive a bunch of content, drive a bunch of content. Well, sales reps aren't used to doing that. So what I do is keep it simple, build a brand, and then go right back to your current clients and have them edify your brand. And then socially connect to your current clients, because we all agree your clients have networks, right? I don't care if it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, right? The contacts that are in their smartphone, it really doesn't matter. Your current clients all have networks, and our sales reps aren't tapping our clients' networks. So to me, the easiest form to prospect socially for a sales rep is build a brand, go back to your current clients, get to know your current clients better, both face to face and in the social world, and then ask your clients to introduce them to key people in their networks and basically socially edify you. That's all I really did as a sales rep, and that's how I'm growing my business now. I mean, the stuff isn't rocket science, but people go, God, this social stuff is so hard. It's because they're reading all this stuff from pundits all over the place.
So take us through some more of that. So, you've got, let's say you've gone through and done a little bit of an audit of your LinkedIn profile. You've kind of modified that little tagline right under your name. Be more descriptive about how you help people or what you do rather than just your title or something vague. You then go back, kind of edit up the summary a little bit. Also, using your advice and thinking through, okay, how am I going to use my kind of job history as a talk track to convey value? Am I comfortable going, as you said, kind of belly to belly with some of my best customers and kind of getting them to say, what kind of value do I provide to you? And using that, making sure, again, that you're kind of social proofing anything you write up in that profile and making sure that your digital presence matches your human presence or your in-person presence. So let's say you've done that, and then maybe you've even gone to the fourth or fifth step, and you've gone connecting to every client you've ever worked with in your network personally, or maybe a broad swath of them. What comes next? So I think, you talked about some things around how do you find the right piece of content to share? How do you kind of engage other people in the conversation? How do you progress that forward? I mean, I think some people listening to this might say, wow, Larry has this guy that, this guy that has been following him for a long time, finally reached out to him, had a meaningful conversation. Maybe more of the stories to come, but they're probably thinking, wow, I want that. I want people proactively reaching out to me. I want kind of those warm referrals, warm introductions, warm conversation starters. How do I do that? So do you have maybe 2 or 3 simple how-tos or tips at the street level of how to engage in some of that social prospecting through LinkedIn, or that social kind of conversation, social conversation starters?
Are you talking about content or no content and starting it?
It's interesting. I actually didn't think of that angle, but talk through either one, or whichever one you kind of recommend or have found more success with.
I think that, it goes back to, I started in the industry in '88, and I remember my first sales manager said, the minute you sell something to somebody, grab 3 referrals, 3 people that they know that you can at least engage in a conversation with. That's almost 30 years ago. And I think the same thing holds true today. So let's just take the content part of this out for a second, but I will address it. But if you build a brand and then you go back to your current clients and you start going wider and deeper in your client base. So let's just say now, if you ask most sales reps they're snuggling up to 1 or 2 people in the account. Let's just get real with that. I mean, they're really snuggling up to the person who signs the agreement, maybe somebody in IT. But if they can effectively build networks inside their current accounts, say they go 6 to 10 deep inside their current accounts, and they take a cross sections, maybe I'm connecting with a couple people at upper level management, a couple people at mid-level, and then a couple people at lower level management. They all have networks. So if we're prospecting for new conversations, and the first place to start is with your current clients. So Brian, if you're a current client of mine and I was connected, and Lindsay, you all worked in the same company, and I was connected to both of you, I'm going to proactively spend some time inside your network to find at least 3 to 5 people that I want you to personally introduce me to. I want you to personally edify me as that subject matter expert. And that's how I started prospecting for new business like this. I connected multiple deep. I built effective relationships inside my accounts face to face and with their networks. And then I would say, Brian, I'd go face to face with you, and that's just how I am. I'd say, Brian, I'm proactively prospecting through your network. Here's a list of 5 people that you're connected to that I'd like for you to introduce me to.
And when you asked for that introduction, did you go as far as, say, for example, and I am getting like really down to the gravel of the street level here, I think, but
that's cool. Don't worry about it.
What I'm thinking about, I mean, do you go to the extent of like giving a very short, like templated note for that that kind of point in your network to say, hey, here's like, a couple sentences to introduce me if you need something. Otherwise, I'm sure you'll be fine with it. Or how do you do that?
It was interesting because I assume if they can't write it themselves, then don't do it. Because a lot of sales reps will go, here's my recommendation, right? I gave you a boilerplate recommendation. All you got to do is put it on your letterhead and sign it. They don't own it. It's not their words. So what I would do, where I effectively prospected through networks, I'd say, Brian, here's a list of 5 people that you're connected to. Can you do me a favor? In your words, can you email your friends and CC me into that email? Can you just bridge an introduction and say, Lindsay, I'd like for you to meet Larry. Larry's a great guy. I've known Larry 8 years. He's done a fantastic job for me. All I ask is, can you at least have a phone conversation with him? What do you think about that?
No, I think what's interesting is the language you're using.
But it's simple stuff, because then what I would do is, I had such strong relationships. They'd say, sure. And who's the first person to reply? It's me. I'd reply all and say, Brian, I really appreciate that you just introduced me to Lindsay. Lindsay, it's a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to having a phone conversation with you. More importantly, look out for a LinkedIn connection request. Are you around next week that I could just, pick up the phone, give you a quick call? It's simple language. It's non-confrontational. It's exactly the same way I talk to a buddy of mine.
Right.
And I think that's the key to it. So that's what I did. That's without content.
Right. So then what do you do when you have content? How do you use that?
So then the content is then if I'm looking at, if you're the CFO, right? Say Brian doesn't do that, right? He knows you, but he may not know you that well. There might be a little bit of a connection. Then I'm going to have to back off that. I might have to, I could still play on your relationship a little bit, but then I may have to get into your wheelhouse with content. So then the content that I'm searching out, and maybe it's just me and I'm just the abnormal sales rep that exists out there, but I love consuming content because I love learning and I love educating myself. And I think that's the big thing that sales reps face, they struggle with, right? Is they stopped learning 10 years ago. So if Lindsay's a CFO at a company that I want to get into, then I found out that content was the best way that I could maybe open a conversation, which means I got to do a little bit of research. And one of the things that I urge sales reps on is, if you ever want to find out what content CFOs consume, go ask your current clients who are CFOs what content they consume online to educate themselves, because quite possibly that's the same content that somebody else is reading. So all I did as a rep in LA when I sold copiers is you never saw me throwing pictures of copiers out there. It was always something out of CFO magazine or Fortune magazine or Harvard Business Review. Those are the things that executives read. Those are the things that they're going to comment on. So if I was trying to get a conversation with Lindsay, I mean, it's easy, right? 30 seconds, I can find Lindsay's email. I might just say, hey, I might just throw something out there, and, this I haven't put any thought into it, but I just might say, hey, Lindsay, I know you and Brian are buddies, right? I'm a buddy who's a Brian. You don't know me very well. I thought you might find this article interesting that other CFOs have appreciated, and leave it at that.
Yeah. And
you're either going to comment on it or you're not. I mean, it's not 100%, but you got to consistently do this. And that's the thing that sales reps won't do is, right? They half-ass throw something out there, right? I mean, it shocks me what sales reps throw out there on LinkedIn, and they wonder why they don't get any traction on it, because 9 times out of 10, it's Facebook-esque stuff anyway.
Yeah, the copy-paste method does not work, because it happens to all of us. We get these boilerplate in-mail messages that's like, I offer this, and when can we get to sit down and get together? And I'm like, you have offered me no value in that message at all whatsoever. And so I think just taking and making it something that is more personal. I mean, the one-to-one marketing, one-to-one sales is going to get you a lot farther. And it takes time. I mean, like we've talked before about account-based marketing, and we've talked about, doing your prospecting and targeting on a one-to-one level. But Larry, you're absolutely right. You have to be able to find some kind of a common thread that you can kind of feed off of, and you're going to stand out because everybody else is sending the same crap.
Right. So if it, so content related wise, that's all I was. Still to this day, I'm strategic as heck with my content. And that's what I share with sales reps is if you want to get engaged in a conversation, you got to proactively work at it. This isn't, it doesn't work by itself, right? You can't automate a conversation. You got to work at it. So if it's CFO, CIO, facilities, whoever your target market is, you have to provide relevant content that they're going to find interesting, which means it's going to be something that's going to help them do their job better.
Yep.
And that's all I found out. I mean, to me, I don't know, it's simple stuff, but people convolute this thing to no end.
That's one of
Brian's kind of breaking up a little bit there. So
all right, I'll just hold it there then.
Yeah. So I mean, to kind of bring it all home, Larry, because we're kind of running out of time. Just some of the key takeaways that I was able to get from you, which, I need to be better about my LinkedIn profile too, so you sig. Is make sure you've got that value prop, make sure that it's relevant and that it's not just, I'm an account manager. Make sure your summary really tells the story about how you're going to help someone, and make sure your work experience is relevant. And what are some, is there a main key takeaway that you want everybody to kind of hit them over the head with something?
Yeah, I'll hit them over the head with this one. You go to work wearing business attire and you act a certain way in your dealership and you act a certain way in front of your current clients, you got to act that same way online. And you have to pay attention to what you wear online, and what you wear online is how you position yourself leveraging LinkedIn. And unfortunately, most sales reps don't wear the same clothes at the dealership as they wear on their LinkedIn profile.
That's a great one. That's definitely a great one. So, well, Larry, again, Larry's got a brand new podcast. He's 6 episodes in as of our episode here, number 25, and it's Selling from the Heart. So you can just look that up through iTunes, through Stitcher, probably through all kinds of different venues. And where can people connect with you socially, Larry?
Well, 2 ways. They can find me on LinkedIn. So it's Larry Levine 1992. Twitter, it's Larry1 Levine on Twitter.
Awesome.
And it's the same on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, and I'm playing around with Instagram to see how this works for sales prospecting, you can find me on Instagram at Larry1 Levine as well.
And all you're going to see is that Larry drinks a lot of wine.
Oh, okay. Now the cat's out of it.
Under the bus, right under the bus.
See that closet door behind me? That's my wine cellar. If I open that door right now, you'd blow your mind.
All the bottles
filled
would
with
fall
wine
out.
bottles.
Oh, that's awesome. So, well, Larry, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your knowledge with us. We appreciate it. I love the kind of on the street level that you provided for us today. It's something that doesn't get presented in that way often enough. So we are thrilled to have that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, good seeing you, Sig.
I appreciate if you can hear me. I appreciate you getting this on. It was nice to chat as well today.
All right, we'll catch up again. See ya.
Yeah. And guys, as always, thanks so much for listening. You can always catch me on the Twitters at LV Kelly. You can catch Brian Sig at Inbound Seller. And until next time, folks, keep the conversation going.
Keep talking.
You've been listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Join us online at yinandyang.fm.